In this step, we're going to throw or shoot the projectile from the player. Let's edit our projectile script there. And we're going to add some more blocks in here to detect when it wants to shoot and then actually move it. First, we need to have some way of triggering this projectile. Usually that would be when you click or when you press a key. In our case, let's go to events and use when backspace delete pressed. And I'm going to change this to spacebar. So when I press the spacebar, it's going to shoot out this projectile. Now we've set it to invisible and we've disabled its physics. So before we go firing it off, we need to make it visible and give it physics again. So we can duplicate those two blocks, visibility and physics. And we want to set them back to true so it gets enabled again. Then we want to give it some velocity to shoot it. So if we go to physics and grab set velocity x 0, connect that in there, and let's try a velocity of 500. Now that'll make our projectile shoot to the right, but what if we want our projectile to shoot to the left as well? Let's go and grab from control flow an if do block, connect it in there, and let's change it to an if else if block by clicking on the properties icon and dragging out else if. Okay, then we can close that window by clicking that. What we want to do here is ask if the player is facing right, else if the player is facing left. And the way that we know which way the player is facing is based off the player's scale. If we go and have a look, I'll just close this and save it real quick. We'll look at the player's script. Remember, we were changing the X scale to 1 and -1. X scale 1 when they're going to the right, and when they're going to the left, X scale -1. So that's how we know which way the player is facing. We'll go back to the projectile script and we're going to ask if scale X of the player is greater than 0, because that would be 1. So we'll go to operators and grab an equals block, connect that into the if block and change that to a greater than. And then we want to put a 0 in there, so I can just duplicate this 500, change that to a 0. And in the left we want this to be scale X of the player. So if we go to transform, we can grab scale X of myself, drag that into there. But we don't want to know about the scale X of the projectile, so get myself out of there, and we want this to say the player. The way that we can identify the player is from their tag. So if we go to sensing, and from tagging we want first instance by tag name. Connect that into the scale X block. Scale X of first instance by tag player. If it's greater than 0, that includes 1. So that's good, that means the player is facing to the right. We want to set their velocity of the projectile. So we can drag that block into there, connect those back in. That'll make the projectile shoot to the right. Now, to shoot to the left, we want to duplicate this greater than block, connect it into the else if, and change it to a less than. If the scale X of the player is less than 0, so -1, we'll set the velocity of the projectile to negative to shoot to the left. Now let's play that and test it out. And I'm just going to go and move over to where my projectile starts so you can see this better. I'm facing to the right, I hit spacebar and it shoots to the right. If I face to the left, I hit spacebar, the projectile comes back and shoots to the left. So that's good, but we actually want our projectile to come out of the player. So we'll do that in the next step. We'll position the projectile properly.